The Mailroom is sort of the beating heart of an insurance organization because it's the interface with the outside world.
Frederic Stallaert, our own Paperbox co-founder and CEO, changed seats during this episode. He works daily on the future of our company and makes the bridge between technology and business.
It wasn't always the plan for me to be CEO, and it's been very exciting, a bit uncomfortable at times, working with people, receiving their trust, and having the feeling that you can achieve something together. Being a startup co-founder is like always being slightly underqualified for what you're doing.
He shares his vision on business transformation and how AI plays a big role in this.
But of course, translating code from papers into a company setting requires more than technical expertise. The scariness of AI has often been a resistant to change kind of thing. The scary part of AI was usually attributable to the not knowing.
And he also talks about the future of Paperbox and how we are working with insurance leaders to take the industry to the next level.
What will be the biggest hurdle in the next 5 years for Paperbox?
I see a risk of, I'm very optimistic about where this is heading and about the people we have and the maturity they are showing.
Welcome to the Efficiency Engineers Podcast.
So, welcome, Frederic. How does it feel to sit in the other chair today?
Pretty good. New environment, new studio setup. I'm pretty excited to be the guest today.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
That's very important. Yesterday, you asked me what we are going to talk about today. And I would like to talk about transformation. Transformation in business, personal transformation, but also transformation in SaaS companies in general, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question is, let's step into a time machine, in a time capsule, and go back before Paperbox.
Mm-hmm.
What were you doing? What were your goals? Where were you headed?
I was mainly professionally occupied with how can I contribute to creating impact with AI. So I joined in 2016 or 17. I joined ML6. At the time, a very young startup. I was a 10th employee. And one of the first companies in Europe really applying AI in business by translating pretty much machine learning papers, AI papers. So this was really cutting edge for me. This was a super exciting environment to be in. But of course, translating code from papers into a company setting requires more than technical expertise. It requires a good understanding of the business and support from within the business to get a system like this up and running, including adoption of users, including also understanding the legacy environment you're working in. So imagine a team of 10 super intelligent people when it comes to AI, trying to make cool things happen in large businesses, like international scale businesses, not necessarily always understanding the business environment. This is where I sort of built my expertise around making this bridge between the technical world and then the business world that was yet to adapt AI. Right now, if we talk about AI, like every company is working with it. At that time, almost no company was even talking about it, let alone working with it, let alone using it in their day-to-day operations, being it dynamic pricing, for example, in e-commerce, or quality control in manufacturing processes, or, for example, more intelligent ways to deal with content for a newspaper business. So there was this range of cool use cases, but then making this bridge was a really big challenge. And for me, that's where the money was. That's where the actual value was. Because going from a proof of concept to a pilot to a real world environment is, at the time, it was still like a project of years. Right now, these cycles are becoming shorter and AI is much more instantly applicable. But that's where I started.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's speak a little bit more about AI and early adopters, because AI is, I think today as well, is still a little bit scary. What was your feeling around that? What could AI mean for the business world at that point?
For me, the scary part of AI was usually attributable to the not knowing. AI is not so scary when you're very well versed in the topic, at least at that point, right? It's gotten scarier since ChatGPT and recent developments. But the scariness of AI for me has often been a resistant to change kind of thing. And then it doesn't really matter if it's AI or something else. It's change is coming, and then you have obviously media playing into that with these horror robot headlines like AI is going to take your job, and that's what the big part of the people remember. But if you really think about it, AI is just a set of statistical models in the end, and working in some way with your own data. So it's not like you create nothing out of thin air, something out of thin air. You just work in a smarter way with your own data, which has been for the last 10 to 15 years becoming a bigger and bigger part of IT strategy in general, business strategy. Remember when all the fuss was about big data? That's when people started to understand we need to organize ourselves around data, because that's where the future lies. And now we're in that future. And a good grip and a good understanding of AI takes away some of the fear. So that means educating people. That means taking it step by step. That means gaining trust, for example, in pilot environments, where people start to feel like, okay, this is pretty much like a program that is here to help me, but then in a smarter way. Of course, you have to understand that the power of AI, or what AI can achieve, and what is desirable, is always dependent on who is behind it. If you have bad intentions, there's a lot of dangerous stuff you can do with AI. But that goes for any software, any technology, pretty much.
Yeah. Do you know why ML6 started implementing AI that early?
I believe it was an early belief in what it could achieve. ML6 started as a data company in the broad sense, data analytics and so on. But then I don't know the exact reason, but I was there when it was sort of a mix of data analytics projects and then a few AI projects, and then the decision was made to go really to bet really big on AI. Google has been an influence as well, because Google has always been, on the international scale, one of the front runners when it comes to AI solutions, AI technology. For example, TensorFlow, which was open sourced by Google. TensorFlow is like an AI development framework that Google used internally to develop their own deep learning networks. They open sourced it so the whole community, the whole world could build their own deep learning networks. And then, for example, Matthias Fees, the CTO of ML6, still is and was a very big fan and a very big follower of where Google was going with this direction. And so adoption was really fast. Imagine also a team of 10 people with a few customers is able to adopt much more faster than a larger team.
Yeah, you were part of that team.
Yes.
At that point. Where in the timeline did you join the Paperbox team, let's say? Where was that transformation and how did it happen?
So a couple of years ago, there's two timelines. Paperbox, the idea of Paperbox, the conception of Paperbox revolved completely around Belfius Insurance, one of the largest insurance carriers in Belgium, who submitted an RFP, a question to ML6. We need a solution that uses natural language processing, a form of machine learning or deep learning, to process our email inboxes, all of the attachments, pretty much to bring structure to our chaos. But we want a solution. We want to buy a SaaS-like solution, including all of the benefits of stability, reliability, scalability of a software as a service. And ML6 wasn't really organized in that way. ML6 was doing much more custom development, custom projects, cutting edge stuff. The phases before a polished product. So the decision came to spin out a separate company called Paperbox that would build a solution specifically for Belfius Insurance, and from there expand on who else needs this in the market. Because obviously with that problem statement, you already feel like this is a widely relevant and recognized challenge. But it was also a point in time where natural language processing was becoming much more mature. So imagine, do you remember Siri a couple of years ago? It was pretty horrible.
Mm-hmm.
If you would ask Siri something, they would misunderstand. They would give you all sorts of responses, and it was a bit of a joke, right? It's like, and Google Translate the same. There was a time when people didn't really trust Google Translate because it was pretty horrible.
True.
Today, this is completely different. And at some point, there was this change where the research around natural language processing was becoming so powerful. It's like this exponential curve of results and improvements and especially generalizability. So being able to use a model for a set of problems, or for example, a set of customers, which means that you don't need custom development for every new customer, which means it's much more interesting to build a machine learning or an AI product out of that. And that's what we've seen in the last 3 to 5 years. A lot more companies that are really focused on building machine learning products, AI products. And so that's when Paperbox came into life as a spin-off from ML6, driven by a concrete market need. Now, the second timeline is my timeline. I was in a role where I was responsible as account manager for most of the ML6 largest customers. Think Procter & Gamble, Bekaert, one of the largest manufacturers in Belgium. I was working a lot with Funko Mediengruppe at the time, one of the largest newspaper publishers in Germany. And this role was for me the best way, as I mentioned earlier, to create impact through AI, to be able to establish the context of these technologies in an environment where we could really start creating value. But I felt with custom development, it wasn't always the most efficient way to reach that goal, because you're spending months and years of researching and developing to be the first one to build something that then eventually at some point has a promise of creating a lot of value. But I guess I'm a bit too impatient for that sort of process and timeline. So I was looking for different ways. And at the time with Paperbox and with the other co-founders, Stijn and Maarten, I knew them from working together. We realized that there was room for an additional co-founder with a strong commercial sense. And for me, this was a really interesting opportunity to be able to collaborate on a product that I saw had the potential to create a lot of impact for many different companies.
We are 3 years now since starting Paperbox, let's say. What is your role today in the team? How did you transform from working at ML6, starting Paperbox with Maarten and Stijn? And how do you, say, what's your role now?
So today I'm the CEO of the company, which means I'm responsible for the overall strategy, reporting and organizing the board, the people, the culture of the company, finding the right people for the right job to be done, but then also nurturing a culture and an environment where people can really do their best work, which I think is one of the most beautiful parts of building a company. Fundraising and finance, making sure the numbers work. I'm a bit involved in the commercial part, sales and marketing, but I tend to, not be involved too much on an operational side because then I'm a bottleneck. So that's pretty much the summary of my responsibilities. Between the co-founders and then the team we have, I try to be the person that is least operationally involved so that I have more capacity to prepare for whatever is coming next, which is purely like a headspace thing. If you're responsible for the customer here and now, you don't always have the headspace to think about next year, the year after, and so forth. It wasn't always the plan for me to be CEO. Well, there's not always a plan in general with startups. But I come from a sales background, and then before development. So a lot of it is new to me as well, and it's been very exciting, a bit uncomfortable at times, but I have the feeling I've been learning so much over the last couple of years, and I get my energy from working with people, receiving their trust, and having the feeling that you can achieve something together. And I'm feeling this a lot with our team, which is giving me a lot of energy. But I'm also feeling this with our customers and our partners who trust us and where we are actually creating that impact. So yeah, that's where I am today.
Do you feel comfortable in that role? Because it's a lot, I think.
Generally, not really, but lately a bit more. But that's going to change again. I mean, being a startup co-founder is like always being slightly underqualified for what you're doing, because the bar is always set one step higher. That's the nature of a software startup. You keep growing. And so as a leader figure in such an organization, you're always, by definition, slightly underqualified. That makes it hard.
Yeah. You were talking about the next big thing or the next 5 years, let's say. Do you have a vision for Paperbox?
I see Paperbox really becoming where we are today is we're working for a select group of customers where Paperbox is crucial in their day-to-day. It's very sticky. Because of the day-to-day responsibility of the software, it also takes quite a bit of energy and effort to get to that point for every customer, both on their side and on our side. But I see Paperbox really as becoming a central point on an international scale for many services organizations. So today we focus mostly on the insurance industry, the industry with the biggest backlog of anything admin related to emails, documents, client requests, and so on. This is known, especially felt by many people. So that's where our energy goes first. But basically any company that communicates with a large group of clients on a frequent basis, and as a result receive a lot of requests from many directions. This can be email, call center, physical posts, I mean, even WhatsApp. And all of this stuff is coming together, coming towards them, and it's creating a mess. And that's where we can create a structure. That's where we can bring the peace, where we bring the efficiency, so that the people dealing with those customers are put in their strength and therefore can do their jobs much better. And so by 2027, we aim to have around 150 customers. So that's 6 times as many as we have now. that's going to require a lot of streamlining of our own processes of how we do sales and marketing, but also how we deliver these solutions to the clients. And I'm looking forward to that.
I do as well. You're talking about 5 years from now, but there are also transformations needed within the companies that are our customers. Which kind of transformations are needed to make sure we get to 150 customers, for example, within these companies?
I mentioned it earlier, but before you can expect people to understand and support where things like AI can bring you, software that is powered by AI, that runs on the cloud, etc., you need to have at least a minimum level of data savviness. If people don't understand why whatever they are putting in spreadsheets today matters, and as a result, they don't do it really well, they don't do it at all, and on a company level, there's not even a chance to do something more intelligent because there's no standardized data model and there's no widely adopted structure and process of working with data, then it's probably a bit too early for us to be engaging with them. So it's a lot about educating people within, and that means everyone, not just the leadership, helping them understand why data quality matters and how to work with data in general, so that we can take them along in this journey in a picture where they start to understand how more intelligent systems can help them do their work better. It's like people ask, how can ChatGPT help me do my job? And okay, ChatGPT is just like a communication interface. It's like a smart chatbot, and there's different ways to do it. We're not going there now. But if you want a computer to help you do your job, you better have the data ready for this computer to work with. Because otherwise, I mean, if you don't even have a standardized process of which papers you are checking when you're making a certain decision, and maybe this decision is half of the time random, then we can't really model that either. So we need to really get to that standard of process quality, data quality, and understanding that this is how we can make things easier. And that's been probably one of the biggest hurdles as well. To imagine we're working with an insurance carrier, and let's say the head of claims understands where they want to be in the next few years, and they understand our solution, and they see how there's a potential to improve how they work and how they process claims, so that they can optimize internal efficiency, but also the experience of the end customer. In some cases, they would say like, yeah, I see where this is going, but I don't think our organization is ready for it, because I know the people who work here and they are a bit tunnel visioned. So we first need to do XYZ, all of the things I mentioned earlier. And then for us, I mean, we can play a role in that transformation. We do. We have a lot of expertise around mailroom systems in insurance and how to optimize, how to centralize. But we're not change consultants in the broad sense. This is, a totally separate field of not even just expertise, but also energy. Like, we are really good in building products and applying them and making sure they work. So that's let's say where I see biggest challenge for transformation on the client side.
Do you agree with this opinion that some people are not ready within those companies, or is it just an opinion?
No, I agree, and I guess it is reality, but there's different ways to deal with it. I don't agree with giving up and saying like, there's no chance we would ever do this or that. the insurance industry is 10 years behind the banking industry, which is 10 years behind e-commerce, for example, when it comes to data savviness, working with algorithms, etc. But this catch-up is going to happen. I can't tell you how long it's going to take, but it is going to happen. It's a given. And if enough people go in this movement, the bigger bunch of the industry will follow, whether they like it or not. I mean, even they might not be conscious of it, but it's just going to be the way they do things. Just like the way they do things now is fine for them. So with this change coming, it's a matter for example, for us to understand, okay, who will be the drivers in this industry? And there's also going to be casualties, just like you see in other industries where change is inevitable. Some of the largest companies in the world, they stop existing. So that's I guess the fear of ceasing to exist is a strategic driver for change. And we're slowly getting there. But the insurance industry is beautiful in a way because it's one of the oldest industries. It's very good at what it does. It's not as influenced by outside factors as much as other industries. And they're a bit more in, let's say, a comfort zone as to how things are going. I mean, generally insurance earns money and do well. And in, for example, e-commerce, you're in a much more competitive space. It's really change to survive. So I don't know. Those are some ideas I have on change in insurance and how it's going to evolve over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Do you think it's an issue of trust?
Yes, 100%. So if you look at, for example, change in insurance and Insuretech startups that have promised to disrupt the industry, the last couple of years have proven that these Insuretechs weren't able to really get to that level of impact and basically imploded. There are some examples, which means that now the insurance industry is looking at those examples and thinking like, see, the way we do things is pretty safe. The Insuretechs are not going to change things so quickly. And it's a bit of a dance as well, where incumbents do innovation from within, and then you have the challengers in the market that promise to take over the incumbents, and this race of arms is increasing the level of the industry as a whole. And then you have startups who are generally the driver of innovation, or at least the fastest driver of innovation. You have those that want to compete with the incumbents, and then you have those that work with the incumbents. So I see trust as one of the biggest. I mean, if you look at our customers, I usually say that insurance are slow movers but fast followers. Getting to the first couple of customers was really a challenge for us, because for these customers, this was the very first time they would do something with AI, with a company that hasn't really proven themselves yet in the market. Luckily, we were able to start with Belfius Insurance, which is a really powerful reference case. But then as soon as we got to a certain level of customers, it's starting to go really fast. It's a really small world. They just ring up each other and they ask like, hey, you work with Paperbox, how's it going? It's going well, okay, I'm ready to sign, basically. So that's the effect we want to recreate also in other markets, to demonstrate our capability of delivering through client references. So it's a bit of chicken and egg, of course, because you need client references to get your clients. But that's let's say the uphill battle of an Insuretech startup today that is working with the incumbents.
Mm. That brings me maybe to the pain points of the insurance companies, because there are certain specific pain points you can fix with Paperbox. What are those? And do insurance companies know those pain points? Or is it something that comes up within the conversation?
No, they're pretty foundational. In that sense, it's nothing new it's actually foundational to the industry and where the industry is going. So first of all, because it's such an old industry, because some of the players in the industry are really old companies, they have a lot of legacy systems, legacy processes that aren't always the most efficient way of doing things today. Think about manually sifting through email inboxes to categorize the information, archive it, manual keying in of data, maybe sending information over to a colleague who sends it over to another colleague, and there's a document ping pong going on in this company, or maybe to external parties, which takes even longer. Throughout this process, there's a lot of inefficiency. There's challenges with data quality because there's no standardization. And if you're not growing, it's not a problem because you just put people to do the work. If you're growing a little bit, you can add more people. Now, the problem is if you're growing faster, you can't find the right people anymore. The insurance labor market is under a lot of pressure. So it's very difficult to find qualified staff, which means you have to start working on the foundations and make your existing people more efficient. Now combine that, for example, with peak loads during, imagine like seasonal disasters like floodings and so on, where you have a lot of a surge in claim submissions that need to be dealt with. Combine that with a industry-wide trend of consolidations. So a lot of insurance, especially intermediaries, but also larger insurance carriers, they're acquiring others and they're growing really fast, which means if you're growing, you have to standardize and streamline processes. And if you're streamlining processes, the question comes up now, like what can we automate? Like what are we doing today that we can automate, that we can make more efficient? And then combine that with increasingly complicated regulatory environments where the insurance industry is operating in. They have very high standards of how they have to file away information, things they have said, have done, have tracked, information that needs to be specified. If you let this up to the judgment of the single person who can have a good day or a bad day, or can be maybe sick at home, or is bottlenecked with a lot of work, then your compliance processes will not be at the same level as when you standardize things with technology so that there's less room for errors. And then the filing away for compliance is not really a value-added task as such for an insurance carrier. You'd rather have this person work on client value, on communicating with the client, on retrieving their information, on working on the claim case, for example, rather than spending their time filing away things because they have to. So the combination of these trends in the industry, that's really where we come in, and where we help these companies to get an answer on where they can start, where basically the mailroom is sort of the beating heart of an insurance organization, because it's the interface with the outside world. And it's where all of the information comes together, where then actions needs to happen, where the information needs to be processed. So being with our technology at this beating heart, that's where I feel we can create the most value. Mm-hmm. And then if you extrapolate this to other industries, the challenges I mentioned are not really unique to insurance.
No, that's true. What will be the biggest hurdle in the next 5 years for Paperbox?
I see a risk of our organization not being ready to scale at the rate that we need to scale to be able to sustain this impact and keep growing. And then I'm talking about maturity of the people within, including myself. I'm talking about maturity of the processes and the assets we have. But then in combination, there's always two sides of the balance that you need to manage, which is internal capability to deliver, but then external demand and capturing of the demand to match with what you have prepared to deliver. Basically, what I'm saying is that increasing our market, going to other countries, we're now in a phase where we always have to break the chicken and egg problem, where we have to find those first customers that will serve as a reference case, whether it's in a new geography or in a new industry. And from there, and through strategic partnerships, we can further scale. But being able to manage those two sides of the balance, that's, I think, where a lot of companies start failing. I know that there's enough demand in the market. I know that we have a strong product, that the technology is there to scale, but organizationally, we need to make sure that we make the right decision every time to keep managing this balance and to ensure that we have happy customers. Because as soon as you start overselling, overpromising, there's an impact on quality of your product and your service towards your clients. There's an impact on client satisfaction, and then the opposite happens. Then you're ending up in a sort of a negative spiral, which I think is the biggest killer to startups that are coming in this growth phase.
Yeah, of course. But I think you have confidence into your team today.
I think we're doing the right things. Yeah, I'm very, very optimistic about where this is heading and about the people we have and the maturity they are showing.
That's nice. So we talked about your personal transformation into the role as CEO at Paperbox. We talked about AI and the impact and transformation on businesses. And we also talked a lot about Paperbox and the transformation within those 3 years, the past 3 years. Do you want to add something after this conversation? Some ideas or some...
First thing that came up when you mentioned transformation is that for me, transformation is sort of the thing that makes life worth living. I read somewhere that that typically people need to have a good balance of certainty in order to be happy, in order to be comfortable, need a good balance of certainty and uncertainty. And for some people, they have a bigger need for certainty. And some people, they tend to lean more into uncertainty and challenge. And I guess I'm this kind of person that likes challenge and that likes to be in this environment, even if it's not always comfortable. And I often curse myself for putting me in situations that are pretty difficult. But that's to me what transformation means. And this reflects in my job, but also in the other things I do in life.
I love this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Roxanne.